I thought I knew my wife after 32 years together until I found the phone she hid in our garage. One text on that screen made me realize my marriage was already over. I never thought I'd be the kind of man to snoop. 32 years of marriage teaches you a lot about a person, what makes them laugh, how they take their coffee, the way they sigh when they're stressed. And I thought I knew Linda. Really knew her. She was the girl I met at the county fair back in '89, standing by the caramel apple stand with that shy smile that could disarm anyone. She was the woman who sat by my hospital bed after my car accident, holding my hand like it was the only thing keeping me alive. She was the mother who stayed up with the kids when they had fevers, even when she had to be up at 5 a.m. for work. We had built a life. A home. Memories that felt unshakable. And then a Thursday afternoon changed everything. Linda was out running errands. She said she'd be gone for a couple of hours, groceries, pharmacy, maybe a quick stop at the post office. I didn't think anything of it. I was in the garage, looking for a screwdriver to fix a loose hinge on the kitchen cabinet. The garage was cluttered, boxes of Christmas decorations, tools scattered in half-broken drawers, old paint cans on the shelves. That's when I noticed it, a black rectangle tucked behind a can of primer, almost hidden from view. I reached up, thinking it might be an old case for something. But when I pulled it down, I realized it was a phone. Not Linda's usual iPhone. This one was small, older, the kind you might get from a prepaid store. Scuffed edges. A faint crack across the screen. I remember thinking, that's strange we haven't used one of these in years. I pressed the power button. To my surprise, the screen lit up, fully charged. And then, I saw them. Notifications. Text messages. For a moment, I hesitated. My heart was pounding. There was this voice in my head telling me, don't look. Once you see, you can't unsee. But my curiosity, or maybe my fear, won. I tapped on the first message. The contact name was just the letter M. And the text said, last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. My first instinct was denial. Maybe it wasn't romantic. Maybe it was from a friend, or maybe this was an old phone from before we even met. But I scrolled. And the more I read, the less room there was for hope. Messages about meeting at hotels. Compliments about how she looked in that dress. Photos, nothing explicit, but intimate in a way that made my stomach twist. And again, I saw that same phrase, hell never know. I remember sitting down hard on the old wooden stool in the garage. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped the phone. I thought about all the times in the past few months when Linda had been busy. All the extra errands. The sudden gym membership. The new perfume she claimed she bought because it was on sale. And I realized, this didn't start yesterday. I put the phone down on the workbench and just sat there, staring at it. The hum of the old garage fridge sounded louder than it ever had. I could hear a lawnmower somewhere down the street, kids playing, the normal sounds of a normal day. And yet, my life had just tilted on its axis. I wanted to march inside, confront her, demand answers. But something inside me stopped me. Maybe I was afraid of what she'd say. Maybe I wanted to be absolutely certain before I destroyed our lives. When she came home later, she was humming. Humming. Like nothing in the world was wrong. She kissed me on the cheek, unpacked the groceries, asked if I'd fixed the cabinet yet. I forced a smile. My mouth felt dry. And all I could think was, how long have you been lying to me? That night, when she was in the shower, I slipped back into the garage, took the phone, and hid it in my desk drawer. I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. First, I needed to know everything. I didn't sleep much that night. Linda lay beside me, breathing slow and steady, one arm draped over her pillow. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. Every few minutes, I'd glance at the drawer in my desk, as if the phone inside was whispering to me. By 5 a.m., I gave up on sleep entirely. I slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to wake her, and went to my office. I shut the door, turned the key in the lock, and opened the drawer. The phone was still there, black screen, waiting. I sat down, feeling almost like a thief in my own home, and powered it on. The messages were a mix of texts and pictures. The contact wasn't the only one, there were a few others, but his messages were the most frequent. They talked about meeting up, about things they'd done together, about me. Sometimes in a joking tone, sometimes not so joking. I scrolled back, trying to find the earliest message. It was from nearly a year ago. A year. For 12 months, I'd been living next to a stranger. My hands clenched around the phone. I kept reading. There were hotel receipts, screenshots of plane tickets, even an email confirmation for a weekend conference she supposedly attended for work. Only, according to MS Text, it wasn't a conference at all. It was a cabin by the lake. And then, I saw something that made my heart stop. A picture. Not of them together, but of Linda in our kitchen. Smiling. Holding a mug of coffee. The caption from M said, "You look so happy there, but I bet you're thinking of me." I leaned back in my chair, feeling like the room was closing in. This wasn't just physical. This was emotional. She was sharing pieces of our life, our home, with him. I spent the rest of the morning combing through everything. I wrote down dates, times, cross-referenced them with her explanations over the past year. The more I matched, the more I realized, there were patterns. Every second Thursday of the month, she was working late. Every other Saturday, she had a book club meeting. And every time, there were messages from M before and after, describing where they met and what they did. By 9 a.m., Linda came into my office, still in her robe, coffee in hand. She smiled, that same easy smile she'd always had. "Morning, Han," she said. I looked up at her, my heart pounding. Did she know I knew? Could she tell? "Morning," I replied, trying to sound normal. She didn't linger. Just placed the mail on my desk, kissed me lightly on the cheek, and went back to the kitchen. I sat there, gripping the phone in my pocket, thinking, how can you stand there like nothing's wrong? That night, I decided to take it further. When she went to bed, I told her I'd be up in a minute. As soon as I heard her breathing deepen, I unlocked her main phone. I knew the passcode, she'd never changed it in years. There was nothing suspicious. No texts from M. No hotel confirmations. No pictures. It was as if her main phone was squeaky clean, while the secret one told the real story. It hit me then, she was careful. She knew exactly how to hide it. This wasn't a mistake, this was intentional. Over the next week, I became someone I didn't recognize. I tracked her schedule. I checked the secret phone every time she left it in the garage. I took pictures of the messages, forwarding them to an email account I created just for this. And then, one Friday night, I saw something that made my blood run cold. It was a message from M, "Next weekend, same cabin. I can't wait to have you to myself again. And maybe tell you what Eve been thinking about him." Him. Me. What could he possibly have to tell her about me? I stared at that message for a long time, wondering if there was more to this than I'd realized. The next morning, Linda mentioned she'd be going out of town for a work retreat. She said it so casually, pouring syrup over her pancakes, smiling at me like it was any other Saturday. I nodded, pretending to be distracted by the newspaper. Inside, I was already making plans. I was going to follow her. The following weekend, Linda packed her small black suitcase. She moved around the bedroom like a woman in a hurry, humming under her breath, folding clothes with almost military precision. I sat on the bed, watching her. "When will you be back?" I asked. "Sunday night," she replied without hesitation. "Don't wait up. It'll be a late drive." She kissed my cheek, and in that moment, I wanted to ask, no, scream, how long she'd been lying to me. But I stayed silent. By the time she pulled out of the driveway, I was already in my car. I waited a full 2 minutes before following, far enough behind that she wouldn't notice. The drive was long. Country roads. Empty fields. A gray, cloudy sky hanging low. Eventually, she turned off onto a narrow gravel path leading toward the lake. I parked a ways back and walked the rest of the way. The cabin was small, tucked between 2 clusters of pine trees. Smoke curled from the chimney. I could see her through the window, moving around inside. Then, another figure appeared. A man. Tall. Broad shoulders. Dark hair flecked with gray. He walked right up to her and kissed her like they'd been doing it for years. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. They sat down at the table, talking, laughing. From my distance, I couldn't hear the words, but I could see the comfort between them, the ease. Like they weren't sneaking around, but living openly in some alternate life where I didn't exist. I was about to turn away, to leave before I did something I'd regret, when I saw Linda take something out of her bag. A folder. She handed it to him. He flipped it open, and even from the window, I recognized what it was: papers. Legal papers. I edged closer, hiding behind a tree, straining to see. My stomach twisted as I realized, they were divorce papers. I staggered back, my breath coming fast. She wasn't just cheating. She was planning to leave me. And then came the final blow. The man looked up, said something, and Linda laughed. She leaned forward and kissed him again. Then she said something, just loud enough for me to hear through the glass. "He'll never know we were already planning this before he lost his job. He thinks I stood by him. But you and we knew better." That was it. It wasn't just betrayal, it was deception that went back years. While I thought she was my rock during the hardest time of my life, she was already building a life without me. I walked back to my car in a daze. I didn't burst in, didn't cause a scene. That's what she'd expect. Instead, I went home, opened my desk drawer, and pulled out the secret phone. I printed every message, every photo, every hotel receipt. I made copies of the divorce papers she'd left in her work bag months ago. And then, I called our kids. I told them the truth. Not just about the affair, but about how long it had been going on, about the plans she'd been making. By the time Linda came home Sunday night, suitcase in hand, the house was empty, except for the stack of papers waiting for her on the kitchen table. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. The look on her face when she saw them, that was enough. If you found out your spouse had been secretly planning to leave you while pretending to support you through your hardest years, would you confront them or let the evidence speak for itself like I did?